I have filmed this video 4 times. Hi everyone, welcome to Things Lucy Reads. I'm Luce and we are here today to talk about Southern Hemisphere authors. So this was one of my prompt suggestions for the readathon, and it's something that I've been thinking about ever since I did a readathon a few years ago, which I can't remember the name of, and I can't remember who was hosting it, and I can't even remember the wording of the specific prompt, but it had a prompt that was something like, read a book by an author from Oceania. And without fail, every single person who picked a book for that prompt picked a book by an author from like Hawaii or Japan. And maybe it only bothered me so much because I live down here and I'm just like consistently annoyed that we might as well just not exist for the rest of the world. But I've been thinking about it ever since. Like I'm pretty much never not thinking about it. And originally this prompt was going to be more like, read a book by an author from Australia or Aotearoa, New Zealand. But then I thought, well, what about South America? What about Central, West and Southern Africa? Hi everyone, it's Editing Luce. I've just realized that for the entire video I've been saying that the African countries in the Southern Hemisphere are located in Central, West and Southern Africa. They are in fact in Central, East and Southern Africa. I do apologize for this mistake. All of West Africa is in the Northern Hemisphere and the countries that are in the Southern Hemisphere are in East Africa. Why not just open it up to the entire Southern Hemisphere? So to that end, to make sure that everyone is on the same page, there is a link down below to a Google Docs, which has been linked in every video for this round of the Queer Lit Readathon, that has a list of countries that are in the Southern Hemisphere. It's continent by continent, and it's split into 3 categories. Countries that are wholly in the Southern Hemisphere, equatorial countries that are mostly in the Southern Hemisphere, and equatorial countries that are only partially in the Southern Hemisphere, but mostly in the Northern Hemisphere. I do want you, when selecting a book for this prompt, if you haven't done so already, or if you need to change, to pick a book from a country that is wholly or mostly in the Southern Hemisphere. Don't just go with one that only partially counts because it's easiest for you, with the caveat that if you literally cannot access any other books than the ones you already have, or the ones that are already at your library, if you have access to a library, or the ones that are on your library's digital app, if you literally cannot access books from any other country than one that is only partially in the Southern Hemisphere, then that is fine. You get a free pass. I'm not here to shame anyone for their lack of access, because lack of access is the driving motivation of this prompt. Lack of access of Southern Hemisphere authors to get distributed in the Northern Hemisphere, let alone published up there. The lack of opportunities to widen their readership. The lack of access for people in the Northern Hemisphere to Southern Hemisphere books. I could sit here and make a 40-minute video about queer books from Australia alone. But I know that most of them are inaccessible because they would have to be ordered from a shop here, and shipping for one book would be probably at least $20 American, which is a lot of money. And I feel the pain of that too, because that's how much I have to pay for shipping from the US or the UK or Canada. Like if I want anything from like up there, I have to pay that much too, because apparently to get from up there to down here or vice versa, the boat or the plane has to go through the wardrobe and save Narnia from the White Witch on the way to the recipient. Shipping is so expensive that they might as well be going through fucking Narnia. Anyway, if lack of access is an issue for you, as I've said, you get a free pass, that's fine. Just do what you can and that will be good enough. If you do have the ability to seek out books, to buy them, to request them from a library because you have access to a library, then it's on you to do better. You are the one that I am expecting the most from for this prompt. This pile of authors that I'm about to suggest to you is not small, and these are just the books that I know have been published overseas, or that I'm pretty sure you will have heard of anyway. I want you to broaden your horizons, to widen the list of countries that you're reading from, and to just put in a little bit of extra effort to read outside of your bubble. And I will acknowledge my own shortcomings in this and say that I don't have very many authors to tell you about from Africa. There's a very small list of books, mostly anthologies, which I will put in the description bar below. One of them I looked up to maybe purchase for myself, and it must be a textbook because it was horrendously expensive. A few of them are on Everand, which is great, so I'll be able to read them on there probably. But they're in the list down below. I don't own any of them physically because I'm suffering myself from a lack of access, because not a lot of those books get distributed in Australia, and the same is true of South America. I was like, oh, I've got like a handful of queer books from countries in Africa, I'll be able to read one of them. No, in fact what I have is a handful of queer books from Nigeria specifically. Every African author I could name for you off the top of my head is a Nigerian author, and Nigeria is in the Northern Hemisphere. I own one book from South America that will count, but I didn't seek out any others because predominantly I find out about South American books from my North American friends. So I think that books published in South America will be better known and better accessible to people who are in North America anyway than they are to people in Australia, and they'll also be better known and better accessible to people in North America than authors from any of the other countries in the Southern Hemisphere. So this isn't a perfect list. I have focused mainly on my own country because these are the books that I have. So please don't think that I'm up here on my high horse and my arrogance saying that I know better than everyone, because I don't. And like, even I could be reading more outside of my own wheelhouse than I'm going to be. But also I live here, so I'm reading more Southern Hemisphere books than people in the Northern Hemisphere in general anyway. And so that's why we have this prompt. Just try. I'm giving you a list of very easy options. We're down here, we're writing books. They're being published up there too. You just maybe aren't aware of them. Like, just try and make an effort to step outside of your comfort zone with this. That's all I'm asking. Down in the description bar, there's going to be some books by queer authors from Central, Western, Southern Africa that you can maybe check out. The ones that are on Everand I'll make a note of. There's also going to be a couple of titles from authors who I think do now live in Aotearoa but are from elsewhere in Polynesia as well, and I'll put the countries in like brackets. One is from Fiji, I think the other is from Samoa. Those are options as well. So the one book that I have from South America is actually also Kathy's host recommendation for this prompt, and it is Here the Whole Time by Vitor Martins. Vitor lives in Brazil, which you could read books by Kay O'Neill. They also live in Aotearoa. Could read Rebecca K. Riley. This book is being published in a couple of months in the US. I think the cover's going to look like this. The author Witi Itimaira is gay and he wrote Whale Rider. This isn't a queer book, but it is about pushing back against your culture's traditional gender roles and stereotypes, which is absolutely a queer theme and a queer author. So you could be reading Witi Itimaira as well. So those are all my Aotearoan authors, I think. So all of the rest will be Australian. If you're into indie books at all recently, you will have seen this one by Quinton Lee. You could also read Cecil Wilde if you have a copy of this book or any of their other ones just lying around on your Kindle somewhere, or maybe you've got a paperback copy. There is Tobias Madden, who wrote Anything But Fine, and also Take a Bow, Noah Mitchell. These have been published in the US. You could read C.S. Pacat. You could read Omar Sako, who is a poet. I don't know if this was published in the US, but Omar has been making posts about Palestine, which I have seen a lot of people sharing. You might have seen the name. In a similar vein, you might not know the name C.G. Drews, but you might know the username @PaperFury. Cat is Australian. Audrey read this book recently. It is Two Can Play That Game by Leanne Yong. I don't know if this got a US release or if they just purchased it from Australia, but if you also have this book, you could read it. All of the other ones I am sure have been published in the US, so they should be accessible for you. There is Rhiannon Wild. You could read Hannah Kent. Hannah Kent wrote Burial Rites. I don't know if that book is queer, but I know that this one is for sure. You could read Jessica Walton. You could read Helena Fox. You could read Erin Goff. This book was published in the US as Amelia Westlake Was Never Here. You could read Will Kostakis. You could read Sophie Gonzalez. You could read Cale Dietrich. You could read Sophie Gonzalez and Cale Dietrich. You could read Freya Marske, and you could also read Shelley Parker Chan, who lives in Melbourne. Everyone and their mother has heard of this book. It counts for this prompt. You really have no excuse. Hello again. I forgot some books. So the first one is The Dawn Hounds by Sasha Stronach, who is a trans Māori author who lives in Aotearoa. This is Rogan's host rec for the Southern Hemisphere prompt. I don't know if this has been released in the US, but it's published by Saga, which is an imprint of Simon & Schuster, so maybe. But anyway, this is an option that I think you will have seen around. And then the other one is The Boy from the Mish by Gary Lonesborough, which is on Bear's TBR for this readathon. This has had a US release under the title Ready When You Are, and it has a different cover than this, but if you search the author, you will find it and you will be able to obtain it quite easily, I think, because it definitely did get a US release. This is the Australian edition. Bear also has this one because they bought it from an Australian bookstore. So just in case you're wondering how that happened. Gary Lonesborough also has another book out called We Didn't Think This Through that's been released in Australia. I don't know if it's been released in the US or if it's going to be released in the US. If you are able to obtain books from Australia, that one's around as well. So here are two more Indigenous author options for you for the Southern Hemisphere prompt. Hopefully there are some options here that you have fairly easy access to that you didn't know qualified for this prompt, but now you do. So you may go forth with this knowledge and use it. I just really want you to make a bit of effort, right? We like it when readathons are easy, when we can just look at our shelves and pick up a book that hits every single one of the prompts. But for this one, I want you to work for it. And I want you in the future to continue seeking out books by authors who live in the Southern Hemisphere, so that maybe we can get like more access to more global stories. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to make a concerted effort to read more books from South America and from Central, West and Southern Africa as well. It's always easiest to access books from your own continent, which is why I have so many from Australia and Aotearoa and not a lot from anywhere else. If you are in South America or you live in Central, West or Southern Africa and you have a suggestion for a book that is queer or is by a queer author, please let me know. I would love to be able to expand my reading as well. We are all on this journey together and I also need to improve, and I am fully acknowledging that. This is just hopefully a first step to get us all thinking about it. I hope you enjoy the readathon. If you've read any of these books, please feel free to leave me a comment about it. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you when I see you. Bye for now.